Hey, good morning and welcome, Yeshua YouTube, to a brand new Masechta Nedarim. It's an honor to be starting a new Masechta. This Masechta is about 90 dapim. It's pretty short if you don't read Rashi and the Ran. Some people say the Rashi here, the Masechta Nedarim, is not the real Rashi. The basis for that I don't know. The Ran is extremely long. It's in place of Tosfos. There is Tosfos, but Tosfos is on the side. For some reason, the Ran gained prominence in Masechet Nedarim, and because his commentary is more expansive than Tosfos, or less succinct than Tosfos, so therefore the Dapim are just much smaller. So I guess if you have Tosfos, this Masechta maybe be half of the size, be 40, 50 blot, but with the Ran, it's 90 blot, which is actually a bonus for Daf Yomi because the share will be a lot shorter. Hopefully, you have a good Magi share like me. We're gonna have a lot of fun in Masechtas Nedarim. I'm gonna start off with a big thing over here because the Gemara talks in Nedarim that it's a bad thing to make Nedarim. You're not supposed to say Nedarim. Take a vow is a bad thing. The Gemara says you're kilu bana bama. If you say make a neder, if you make a vow that you're supposed to do something, it's like you made a bama, which is an altar outside the base of Hamikdash, which normally is forbidden. And if you are Mekayim that neder, it's Gilo Hikravel of Korban. You made your Avera worse. You actually brought a Korban on the Bama. But the Gemara does say that it's a mitzvah, take Nidre mitzvah. If you take a neder to, the Zruze Nafshe, the Gemara calls it, to make yourself, want to do mitzvahs more, to make yourself more, to give you motivation to do mitzvahs, Zruze Nafshe. So therefore, it's a mitzvah to take Nedarim, and therefore, I'm going to start off Zechus Nedarim with a neder. My neder, I'm not even saying blin neder. I'm not one of those people who say blin neder. I'm making a neder that we're going to do Daf Beis today and Daf Yomi. You heard it here first. I made a neder, and hopefully I'll be completing that neder. Nidre mitzvah mutter, and it's a mitzvah to take nidre mitzvah. I will tell you a story about one of the Yom Kippurs I had when I was after I learned Zechus Nedarim. What I said in Tfilas Ne'ilah to Hakadosh Baruch Hu on Yom Kippur. Interesting story. I had to be modern there. It was on Nidre Mitzvah. That was a little too big to take upon myself. Let's start the Masechta. Beis Amid Aleph. Kol Kinuye Nedarim Kenedarim. All Kinuye Nedarim are not Kenedarim. Kinuye Nedarim. We're going to see the basic structure of a neder is a machlokes the Rishonim. For example, you take a neder that this is not a real neder. That I take a neder that I'm not going to drink this coffee. That would be a neder. When you say this coffee is asr onto me. Now, do you have to be matvis bekorban? You have to say this coffee is asr to me like a korban. A korban is asr behan. No, you have to be makar on this beach. After you're makar on this beach, some korban is allowed to partake from. But even then, you're only allowed to partake from them when you're tahor and maybe inside the base of Migdash, or maybe inside Yerushalayim. So there's kedusha with a korban. So it's a fundamental machlokas at the beginning of the Masechah between the Ran and the Rush. The Ran assumes a regular neder just to say this coffee is usher to me. According to the Rush, you have to say konam. Konam is a short way of saying the word korban. It's a shorthand way of saying the word korban. You have to say this coffee is usher to me like a korban. A korban. I'll discuss in Ian with Ben Sion, which is a separate Ian share I give every day. What's the difference? What's the fundamental machlokas between the Ran and the Rush? Whether a regular neder has to be connected to a korban or not. Anyway, kol kinuyin nedarim kenedarim. The oftentimes, even according to the Ran, you would take a neder by saying konam. Konam is a short way of saying korban. This coffee is also like a konam. Now, kinuyin nedarim kenedarim. So therefore, if I didn't say exactly the word korban, really the way is to say it, this coffee is also like a korban. If I said konam, which is a shorthand way of saying it, it's a nickname. Kinuyin means a nickname. You nickname a korban konam. That's how they used to call korbanos. Konam. So you say konam, that has the same effect as a regular neder, as if I were to say korban. The charamim, similarly a cherem. There's two types of charamim. Charamim are either things you donate to the kohanim or to the Beis Hamikdash. That which you say cherem to the kohanim, or cherem to Bedek Habayis for the treasury of the Beis Hamikdash. And charamim also, independently of that, has meaning of a neder. It's a way people express a neder. cherem, this coffee on me. Again, when I say these things, it doesn't mean I'm actually making it. A lot of times people learn Nedarim, and you have to give examples to explain the things. I felt the first time I was learning Masechtas Nedarim, I was in the mirror. I was 21 years old. 21 years old. I'm speaking the cases to myself, trying to figure it out. You feel like you're making a neder, but you're not making a neder as long as you don't have the right intention to make a neder. You're just giving examples. Charam charamim, shvuya kishvuyos, and also if you say by a shvua, right? If you say a konam of a shvua, right? The Gemara will discuss in Daf Yud. If you say shvuka, shvusa, you don't say the word shvua exactly. You say a similar word. When Naziris can Naziris, the Gemara lists a couple of kinuyim for Naziris, nicknames for Nazir, Nazik, Paziach. We'll see the Gemara in Daf Yud. Omer lechaveru mudrani mimcha, mufrashani mimcha, merukani mimcha. The first says to his friend Mudrani, right? I take a neder from you. Mufrashani mimcha, or I separate myself from you. Merukani mimcha, I want to distance myself from you. Shani ochelach, shani toam lach. He specifies in what respect I want to distance myself from you. I don't want to eat your food. I don't want to taste any of your food. Aster. Now, this second half of the Mishnah is talking about a different aspect in the Nedarim called yados. Yados means when I say part of a neder, but not the entire word of the neder. Even according to the Ran, you have to say aser, right? You don't have to connect to a korban, you have to say aser. Here he doesn't say, he just says, I want to distance myself from eating from you. But he doesn't say, I want to aser myself. So saying a lashon, which is a yad is like the handle, think of like a cup or something like that, like a coffee mug, you have the handle over there. So you grab onto the handle, you're able to pick up the entire cup. So that's what a neder is like, a yad is like. The handle to the mug, right? You grab onto the yad, it's like you picked up the entire mug, the entire neder. We're going to see right away on Daf Beis and Beis the concept of yados. Aster, those take effect like a regular neder. Menuda anilach, person says, I put myself in nidoi, right? Nidoi is basically excommunication from you. Person wants to ask, he doesn't want to benefit from other people. A lot of times people get angry at other people. They're in fights with other people. I'm not gonna get close to you. I'm not gonna get within 4 amos of you, within 6 feet of you. You have coronavirus. I'm sure people will take this to heart when it was corona. I'm taking a neder. I'm not getting next to you, even within 6 feet. The law says you can't go within 6 feet. It doesn't make a difference. American law is not binding on Hilchos Nedarim. Maybe Israeli law is. You can't take a neder on a neder, shul al shul. With any aser, you can't take another neder. But I'm saying American law or Israeli law is probably not effective according to halacha, so it would take effect. Rikiva says, if you say menuda anilach, it's questionable lashon. When you say I'm excommunicating myself, does that mean to say I want to take a neder, I'm not going to benefit from you? Rabbi Akiva was unsure, and therefore he was machmir. We'll talk about why he was machmir and what is the status halachically if you say menuda anilach. The Gemara on Beis and Beis says, "Kol kinui nedarim k'nedarim ma'ishna gabi nazir lo kasani lahu lahu lahu." The beginning of Masechtas Nazir starts off right. Kol kinui naziros k'naziros. Our Mishnah lists 4 cases: haramim, shvuos, naziros, and nedarim. Why over here it lists all 4? Naziros, it just says kol kinui naziros k'naziros. Doesn't list the other 3. Here it says, "Oh, mishum the neder shvua ksiva gabe." The Gemara answers, Nedarim is mentioned in Parsha and Sefer Bamidbar, in Parshas, the beginning of Parshas Matos. It talks about Nedarim, and it mentions the word neder and shvu in the same pasuk. So therefore, since they're in the same pasuk, once it mentioned Nedarim, it mentions shvu also. Tani Tartan, so you have 2. V'teva and the Tani Tartan, once you're here, you have 2. Half of it, Tani Lakul. Therefore, we said all 4 cases that are applicable. So the Gemara says, "Listening kinu yeshvu is basar nedarim." Why does it jump from kol kinu nedarim to nedarim, kol haram haramim? If neder and shvu are linked in the pasuk, say shvu after neder. So the Gemara answers, "I did Tani nedarim the mitzvah chefsa aleh, Tani nami haram in the mitzvah chefsa aleh." The reason it mentioned haramim after nedarim is because, I'm going to talk about this more in Iyot Ben Sion, is that if you ever heard of an Isra Chefsa or Isra Gavra, this is really, Rav Chaim Brisker came up with this idea, but it's really not his own idea. It's really exactly what the Gemara says here in Daf Beis and Beis, that there's 2 types of Isurim, right? When the Torah says I can't eat pork, let's say, so does that mean that the actual pork is something which is forbidden? Or does it mean that I have to just, it's an Isra on the Gavra, on me, that I have to distance myself from the pork? There's nothing inherently wrong with the pork. The Torah just says, for whatever reason, you distance yourself from the pork, don't eat the pork. It's a fundamental machlokes. So the Gemara says Nedarim is considered Nisr Chefsa, meaning the actual thing that you take a nether from, coffee, here would actually be there's actually an Isser or a Kedusha we'll talk about in Iyad Ben Zion on the koroma, on the coffee itself. And charamim also, in cherem, that's a right. Normally, cherem is used to sanctify something for the Beis Hamikdash. So when you use it to aser something, it also has a connotation of asering the chefsa, as opposed to lafuge shvua, the gaser navshem in chefsa shvua. When I take a shvua, I say shvua that I'm not going to drink this coffee. So that everyone agrees is not an isser on the chefsa. It's a shvua. I'm taking a shvua. I'm taking an oath, right? And then there will be a vow. A shvua will be an oath. I'm taking an oath that I'm not going to drink from the coffee, but that's a personal isser on me. There's nothing inherently usser about the coffee. Patach b'chinuyin. So the Gemara has another question. Patach b'chinuyin kol chinuyin nedarim mafarish yados. Right? It says kol chinuyin nedarim, and then the Gemara next line in the Mishnah says, right, mudranim imcha mudranim imcha, as I explained in the Mishnah. That's a reference to yados, which is a different type of mechanism that works by Nedarim. There's a concept of kinuyi in Nedarim. Nicknames in Nedarim have the status of Nedarim. And then handles, where you say a partial lashon of a nether, has a status of a full nether. So why does it jump right away to explain? Why does it explain? We'll see on Daf Yud, it explains what kinuyi and Nedarim are. We don't know what kinuyi and Nedarim are. What are the lashonos? What are common languages to nickname a nether? Why does it skip right away to yados? Right? Like what the Mishnah continues, right? A person says to his friend, Mudrani mimcha, v'su yados, inshi, right? And second of all, why didn't the Mishnah mention it? It described yados. Why did it mention as a statement, right? Yados nedarim kenedarim. It says kol kinu nedarim kenedarim. It should have said yados nedarim kenedarim. So the word is ayri bahon. Really, it was talking about yados. The Mishnah was lacking part of the text that really should have been part of the Mishnah, and it should be read as follows: it should have mentioned also yados nedarim like nedarim. So the Gemara says, okay, we missed part of the text of the Mishnah. Really, there should be called yados nedarim kenedarim, but why did it go right away and start explaining yados? The first mentioning was kinuyim. Let's explain what kinuyim are. So. The one that left off with Yados, so that explains first. Where do we find precedence for this? It says in Masechah Shabbos, right? Mishnah, the second paragraph of Shabbos says, what do you light with? What are you allowed to light with for Nero Shabbos? What are you not allowed to light with Nero Shabbos? And then the Mishnah continues, Ein Madlikin, and starts off from the last part. What don't you light with? Similarly, it says in Masechah Shabbos, what can you use to insulate a pot on Shabbos? Before Shabbos, Mayin Tomnin, what you can't use, Ein Tomnin, and it details right away what you can't use. Meisha Yosa, Meisha Ma'ena Yosa, what can she go out with Rosh Hashanah? What she can't go out with Rosh Hashanah? Lo Seis Isha, and then it starts right away what she can't go out. So the Gemara says, is this really true? The Pasach Lo Mafarish Bereisha. It doesn't explain what it started with. Atnan, we have a Mishnah in Bava Basra, Yesh Nochlin Manchilin, Nochlin Velo Manchilin. There are certain people that inherit, right, but don't give inheritance to other people. Nochlin v'lo manchil, and something like the opposite, where they get a Yerusha, but they can't give a Yerusha to somebody else. Elu nochlin manchil, and it starts talking about the first case. Yesh mutaras, Yesh mutaras about lema. Certain women are mutar to their husbands, asr to the yavama. Sometimes they're mutar to the yavama, asr to the yavama. We learn Masechas Yavamos with us, and Daf Peiches, I think it talked about this. So some people are mutar, they pay dollar. I'm sorry, mutar is given and they're mutar to the yavam, but also to the baal. The eilu mutar is about and then it details which one first, the first case first. And similarly, in Masechas, I think Menachos, certain carbon minchas need oil and frankincense. Some oil velo levona and don't need frankincense. And then it details the first case. Similarly, yesh tunas hagasha and tunas tenufa. Certain karbanos you have to bring it close to the mizbeach, but don't need to be waved around. Tenufa v'lo hagasha. Some are the opposite; they need to be waved, but don't need to be brought close to the mizbeach. Ve'el tunas hagasha, and then it immediately explains the first case. Yesh b'chor lenachal and b'chor lekohen, b'chor lekohen and b'chor lenachla. And b'sachas b'choros. Sometimes a firstborn son could be a b'chor lenachla to get a pishnayim, get a double portion. But he's not considered a b'chor l'kohen, that he has to be redeemed, that you do a pinyan ben. And there are cases b'chor l'kohen and b'chor l'nachla. Certain b'chors, Firstborn sons are before they have to be redeemed, but they don't get a pishnayim. They don't get a double portion in the nachala. Be'ezu b'chor l'nachal, ein b'chor l'kohen. And it immediately lists the first case, not the second case. So the Gemara first tries to answer the last 5 cases where we started explaining the first case first. The Avshuluhu, right? If you look at all his Mishnayos, it's not just 2 stanzas. There's actually 4 stanzas over there. So therefore, when there's 4 stanzas, right, you get confused. So therefore, who the pasach baration, far who the pasach baration. Therefore, just for the sake of clarity, we go back to the first one that we started with. So the Gemara immediately asks, and it says to Mishnah Shabbos, animals also, they can't go out carrying things. Yom Tzuva and Shvisas Behemto, Pesach Shabbos. And certain things, any Yotze. The Lo Avsha, right, it only says 2 stanzas over there. But Kasana Yotze Gamal, and immediately jumps. The next Mishnah says that a camel can go out with, so even though there's not 4 cases over there, it still goes back to the first case. So let's just start at the top of Gimel and Aleph. Elav Dafka. The Gemara concedes at the end, you have to say it's not really precise. Zinin the Mefarish Huda Pasab Reisha, Zinin the Huda Salach Mefarish Reisha. The Mishnah wasn't, so particular. Sometimes, right, it explained the first case that it mentioned, and sometimes it took the case where it left off from, like the case in our Mishnah. The Ibai is the introduction of a new answer to answer the question. We'll start that tomorrow. That's the conclusion of today's year, 16 minutes, 24 seconds. And yes, I was Makai my Neder. We did Daf Beis and a little of Daf Gimel also. So I was Makai my Neder, and there you go. I taught you something about bringing halacha l'maisa, and I also taught you that it's mutter to make a nidrei mitzvah. Hopefully, assuming you can be Makayim it. If you can't be Makayim it and you're just making crazy things, then maybe it's a bad idea. But remember, you can always be mater neder. We'll learn about that. Hope you enjoyed today's shir. Stick around for Ian with Ben Sion, separate shir. We talk more about this fundamental machlokas in the Ran and the Rush, about what the basic neder is. Is a basic neder always have to be connected to a korban? You have to always say, this coffee is usher to me like a korban. According to the Rush, you do. According to the Ran, you just say this coffee is usher on to me, which is a neder. The basic form of a neder. You don't have to hatfasa. You don't have to connect to a korban. What is the source of the machlokas? What are they arguing about? Ben Sion coming up next.